So longevity and the subject of longevity is very popular right now. It's a very attractive idea because, we all want to live longer. We all want more life. We all want more time with our loved ones, with the people that we care about, and we want more time to do the things that we want to do. But I think before we look to things outside of ourselves to increase our longevity, whether that be exercise or herbs or a specific diet or a specific dietary restriction or anything that would be more physical and outside of ourselves, those are all important aspects of longevity, and they all can help and supplement. But if we don't have this piece of the puzzle in place, it'll all be almost for nothing, and our existence will be feeling almost like we're pushing a boulder uphill. Now, what I'm talking about here is a mindset. It is really the foundational thing, and it really is based on ancient knowledge, and it's based on a lot of modern scientific research. Now, if we don't have this piece in place, obviously our results are going to be diminished. If we do have this piece in place, we're going to be much more effective, and we're going to reach our goals much more quickly and easily and effectively, and also much more cheaply, because we won't have to, try this new supplement or this new treatment or this new, hormone or whatever it is that we're doing, in vain to chase longevity, when in reality we're still clinging to an outdated concept, which I like to put it like this. It's senseless to strive after longevity if we're still clinging to death and we're still clinging to outdated and archaic models and ways of understanding ourselves and understanding our reality. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, well, first of all, what does it mean to live long? What does longevity actually mean? And I think ultimately what it all boils down to is that we need to understand a few key things. We need to understand that the problem is only existing because we're creating it. We're only struggling and striving and trying to achieve something because we're creating the situation, because we're creating the problem. Because ultimately, longevity can be achieved right now. Immortality can be achieved right now. And to fail to realize this is to basically miss the whole point. And sure, you might be able to prolong your physical life, but if you don't understand this, then why? What's the point? You're still missing it. You're still going to die. You're still subject to birth and death and all of these other factors, which we're supposedly trying to avoid or trying to at least, bypass for as long as we can. So what we need to understand is the concept of time. We need to understand that time in reality doesn't exist, and that the concept of longevity and living longer and extending our lives, and even the concept of immortality, is all tied to the concept of time. Now, if we're consistently striving for these aforementioned things, then we're basically opposing ourselves, because we're still believing in something that's not real and that doesn't exist. So ultimately, our entire approach, our entire philosophical paradigm is based on a fallacy, based on something that's not true, based on something that's not real. So of course the results that we're going to get with that are going to be massively distorted and undermining our entire efforts. So if you've ever gone out in the woods, you've ever gone camping, you've ever spent time in nature alone, I'm sure that you've never actually seen a clock. You've never been walking through the woods and said, oh, hold on, let me look at this tree and see what time it is. Or hold on, let me ask this bear what time it is. Or let me ask this snake what time it is. And this is because in nature, time doesn't really exist. If it weren't for us humans and our invention of time and clocks and all of these things, then it wouldn't exist. Now, I'm not saying that time doesn't have value and that it's not important, because it is. Because, if you need to meet someone at somewhere, at a certain place, at a certain time, to, live your life and to do what you need to do, it's important for these reasons. But we have to understand that it's just a tool, and that it's just a social convention. It's something that we agree upon as a working, useful tool, not something that has, a pragmatic solid reality outside of our own concept. So when we really dig into this concept, we can really see that, sure, there are cycles, sure, there are, opposites, night and day, there are the 5 seasons, there are, things that are consistently going back and forth. The sun, the moon, the stars, these are all things that are rotating and moving around. But nowhere in this do you see any linearity. Do you see a start and a finish? It doesn't exist. If you look at the sun, it doesn't ever start and stop. It's always moving. It's always going in a circle. It's always going in a cyclical, infinite movement. Which, if you ever studied ancient cultures, you see this concept of the Ouroboros, which is, the snake eating its own tail, or the dragon eating its own tail. Or you see the infinity sign, which is like an 8 turned on its side. And it's basically what I'm saying here is that nowhere in there do you see start and finish, or beginning and end, or 1973 to 2010. Nowhere in there do you see that. You just see 2 poles or 2 things just consistently transforming and transitioning into each other. So since that's what's true, and since time doesn't exist and it's just this infinite cycle of things, how can we really say, oh, well, I want to live longer? Because what does that even mean? If it's based on what's actually true, then you can't say that. Because to say that implies that there's a beginning and there's an end. So that's just one thing to really meditate on, one thing to realize is that time doesn't exist and we're just making it up. Likewise, the concept of the ego doesn't really exist. If your ego exists, take it out and hold it in your hand and show it to me. You can't. If your ego exists, show me where in your body it exists. You can't. Scientists have torn apart the human body and nowhere have they found a controller, nowhere have they found the ego. It's just because, just like time, this is a social institution, this is a social construction, and it is useful and it has value and meaning, and it's something we should cultivate, and we should have a healthy, strong, balanced ego, because this is our symbol of ourself. This is how, over here and over there are distinguished. This is how you and I are distinguished. But we have to realize that these ultimately aren't true. They're just something that we do to make life easier and to make things more, harmonious and agreeable, so we can have a functioning society, and we can, meet each other at certain times and do certain things and just have order, so we can structure the chaos and turn it into order. But that doesn't mean that it's operationally